For those who are joining us for the first time, I'm Nikki. I'm the Chief Wellbeing Officer and the co-founder of Positive Workplaces. I studied a master's in counseling psychology in Ateneo because I just love helping people. I love listening to people. I love trying to help people make their lives better. But then I realized there that there was a big focus on what was going wrong or what was the problems. And it was a lot of the work was getting people from problematic to normal. But I don't want that. I believe there's so much more to human capacity than to just be normal. I feel like we can all thrive. And that's why I studied a master's of applied positive psychology at the University of Melbourne in Australia. If we can be rigorous about studying disorder, we can be as rigorous about studying strengths and helping people thrive. So, oh, my slide is not loading properly. So the lead designers of this webinar are Kurt and Athena. They both studied a BA in psychology from the University of the Philippines, and they're part of our team. So they're our lead designers, and they've designed this webinar for us. So this is our learning roadmap. First, we're going to tackle why. Why are positive emotions important? Second, we'll talk about what. What is the upward spiral? And third, we'll talk about how. How can I use positive emotions to enhance growth? So first, why? Why are positive emotions important? Can't we just stick to the negative emotions? Or why do we have to kind of try to find this inside of us in our experiences? First of all, to get all of us on the same page, emotions have several components. So for instance, you're feeling happy. That emotion of happiness consists of that subjective feeling plus your facial expression. If you're smiling, if your eyes are bigger, and the physical changes as well. If you're happy and your heart is beating faster, that's part of the emotion. And the emotions, they happen over a short period of time. They're subtle and they're fleeting. So I want to ask you, as our little check-in, if you could go to menti.com, and our team member Trina has pasted that link. You can click on that link, or you can turn on your phone's camera, point it at the screen, and the QR code should lead you to this next page. What positive emotions have you been feeling lately? For me, it's definitely been peace. I'm kind of learning to be more content and at peace with the changes and the changes that have happened over the last year. I'm at peace with not being able to be as free as I used to be. So let's check what positive emotions people have been feeling. People have been feeling grateful. Ooh, so lots of people feeling gratitude. That's great. Please continue to channel gratitude. There's always going to be something to be grateful for despite the situation. Some people are feeling accomplishment, calmness, and optimism. I love that a lot of people are feeling contentment as well, that there's the situation right now is not so bad. Um, some people are feeling motivated. Some have that sense of achievement. Some are hopeful. I like how one person said eustress. It means sakto lang yung stress. They're not too distressed. They're not too calm. They're at that good level of stress, the eustress that helps them perhaps keep going on. People feel blessed. Again, blessed. Gratitude is a big one I'm seeing right now. Content, positive, motivated. These are all amazing positive emotions. I'm glad that you're able to channel these right now. And so you already know these are the positive emotions that you could feel. You could feel happiness, you could feel joy, contentment, even interest, pride, and love. They're positive emotions. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna try an experiment. Sorry about that. So let's try an experiment. Actually, it's a pseudo experiment. It's not so rigorous. So right now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put some of you in a breakout room, and in the breakout room, you will watch a 90-second video. Then we will do a task when you come back. So we're setting up that breakout room. All right. So for those who are still here, it means you're staying in this room and we'll be watching a video together. So just your only task is to focus on the video for the next 90 seconds.
Long.
Do it again.
Do it again.
All right, and now we're all back in the room. So you can see we watched two different sets of videos right now. So right now we're gonna do a task, okay? Get your pen and paper ready. So make sure you have it ready because we'll do this task really quick. So make sure everyone, you have your pen and paper ready. You watched the video and we'll now do our task. You have your pen and paper. We'll do this really quick. So this is your task. On a piece of paper, write down as many uses of a paper clip that you can think of in 1 minute. Go, okay? As many uses of a paper clip that you can think of. It could be ridiculous, it could be typical. Be as creative as
The
possible.
game begins in 3, 2, 1.
All right, stop. Everyone stop. Okay, no more writing. This is just a fun little experiment. Don't anymore write anything there. So the next thing we're going to do is please count how many you were able to think to come up with. Please count the ideas that you were able to come up with. So even if it's silly, like like you say it's going to be to poke tiny holes or to be the barbell of a mouse, it's fine. Just even if it's silly, count as many, count them. How many did you come up with? Okay, I'll give you 10 seconds to count. And don't cheat, okay? We're just trying to test something here. Yeah, if you can put your count there on the chat box, and then I'm gonna be asking you to put your count on Mentimeter as well. So we'll go to Mentimeter.
The game begins.
Hold on.
The game begins.
Okay, we're gonna go to Mentimeter. So if you can please click the Menti link again, or turn on your camera. We'll go and scan the QR code. We'll go to the next one. For those in the baby room, how many uses of a paper clip did you come up with? So we'll give people some time to answer the average. This is for those who were in the baby room. Mamaya na yung Gordon Ramsay room. So we have 22 respondents right now. We're going to switch on to the next condition in a minute. So 24 respondents, there's 5.8. Ooh, okay, 6 na yung average natin with 28 respondents. Okay, let's stop right there and then we will switch on to the next. We'll switch on to the Gordon Ramsay room. So for the baby room, we have 28 respondents saying that they have an average of 6. For the Gordon Ramsay room, how many uses of a paperclip did you come up with? It's just a little pseudo experiment. I'll tell you what my experience of this was when I was doing my master's in Australia. We actually did a similar kind of experiment. We sent out half of our classmates. Half of our classmates went to another room and they watched the video. And then half of us stayed in the room and we were watching videos of puppies. So with 26, 27, 28 respondents in our pseudo experiment, there's like an average of 5 ideas. So a while ago, there's an average of 6 ideas. And in this one, in the Gordon Ramsay room, there's an average of 5.2. So as you can see, it's less. People in the Gordon Ramsay room came up with a bit less idea, like one less idea compared to the one in the baby room on average. So why did we make you watch those videos? It's because positive emotions, they have two main functions. Their functions are to broaden and to build. Very good metaphor that you can think of for broadening is, imagine a flashlight. If your flashlight was dim, you can only see a few things at once. So your perspective is narrow. And you might even sense this from your own experiences, diba? If you're feeling negative emotions, you have a tendency to be very fixated on specific details, or you have less ideas in mind. You get stuck more easily. So that's like with you having a flashlight that's quite dim. You only see a few things. But positive emotions, a metaphor for it, is like supercharging that flashlight so that you see a variety of things. You're able to see more things, you're able to think more broadly, you're able to see more options. And when you see more options, you're actually able to be more creative about how you're going to approach a problem. You're able to be more agile about the different ways that you can still adjust to the situation at hand. So positive emotions is like supercharging your flashlight. You have a broader range of perspectives when you have positive emotions. So just like for those who are in the baby room, usually the experiments show that you're able to come up with so much more. If you have positive emotions, you're usually able to come up with so much more ideas than people who are experiencing negative emotions. So if creativity is a value to your workplace right now, if you want people to broaden their mindsets and to broaden their ability to think of the different options and approaches that they can do at work, then channeling positive emotions at work is going to be really, really critical. So that is broadening. And so see, if you can broaden, you can think of more ways of doing things and you're able to build psychological and physical resilience as well. So you're able to come up with more resources for coping and problem solving. This is like your well-being currency. So next slide, as I mentioned earlier, this is like building your piggy bank for positive emotions. The more positive emotions you deposit in your piggy bank, the more you can access later on. So don't think that it's just a one time, big time when you're making yourself feel happy. You're able to access those emotions later on. Next slide. And that actually increases your well being. So when you're able to increase your well being because you're able to access past positive emotions, you're able to thrive better. Next slide. And next slide. So one example that I can share with you is I've heard about this author. His name is Anthony Ray Hinton. When he was a teen, he was falsely accused of murdering someone, and so he was sentenced to death row. And just to share with you how bad that experience was, he said every day he would hear someone walking from one end of the hall to the other end of the hall. So while that person was walking, he would hear chains on the floor. And by the end of the 5 minutes of that person going into one room across the hall, he would then smell burnt flesh because across the hall, everyone on death row, they were being electrocuted every day that was happening. That was his experience. And imagine how maddening that kind of experience is. You're waiting for your turn to die, but every day leading up to it, you're smelling burnt flesh. You're hearing people go crazy. You're in a room where you can't get out. And so, what Anthony said was when he's sitting in that room, he's actually trying to remember all of the good experiences in his life. He's trying to imagine all of the experiences that he's never had. For instance, he said like he would imagine that Halle Berry was his girlfriend, and that would fill him with so much positive emotion that it was enough for him to carry through the day every day without going crazy. And up to a time where they found out he was falsely accused, and they of course allowed him to leave prison. When he left prison, he wrote this book, The Sun Does Shine. And he said that being able to gather those positive emotions was what helped him be hopeful and optimistic. It's what helped him turn that very sour experience into something good, into a book that would help others as well. Next slide. So for me, for instance, I haven't been able to leave the house for a whole year. It's just a choice that I've made to make sure that people here at home are safe. I live with my mom and she's older. And so it's a choice that I've made to not go out, not to see my friends. But one thing that's made me really happy over the pandemic is looking back at past pictures and just remembering all of the travels that I had with my friends. This one is with John and Car. We went to Tasmania. And if some of you know, John is my business partner. And next slide, you'll see that some of the really silly, like I remember all of the silly things from what happened last year. Like for instance, last year, we were actually really sad because the snow was melting and we weren't gonna see it anymore. It would have been John's first time to see snow. But then when we saw like a little patch of snow, John was super happy. And then he just like, I'm sorry, John is not here. He's gonna kill me if you saw this. But like, he was just rolling near the snow. And just memories of that fill me with so much joy even now. Even now that I can't travel, I remember all of those good times. Yeah, Francis. Imagine like crazy talaga si John. And it makes me so happy. See, the little joy that John felt 1 year ago is something that continues to bring me joy to this day. So that positive emotion that we felt together more than a year ago, I'm still able to access now. And you could do the same. Next slide. So again, it builds your cognitive resources. When you have positive emotions, you have higher levels of engagement and intellectual functioning. Do you notice when you're doing something difficult, but if you just recently felt happy, it feels like your mind is functioning better. It also improves attention and cognitive functioning. Know that negative emotions weighs in on your mind. It captures your cognitive economy. So if you have more positive emotions, the reverse occurs. You have more capacity to pay attention and you're able to create novel ideas better. So um for this instance, I remember when I was working in a startup, in an education startup, One time, my boss was like, okay, everyone stop working. And we were all getting stuck already. We couldn't think of more creative ways of designing our trainings. My boss said, everyone stop. We're going to play board games. And because he was the boss, I was like, okay, let's do it. And it wasn't crazy after all. After, when we took that break, we had more creative ideas after playing board games. So even at work, it's not ridiculous to play games. And next slide. So it also builds your psychological and physical resources. So undoing is something that positive emotions can do. So if you experience negative emotions, when you switch to finding more ways of experiencing positive emotions, the effects of the negative emotions are undone. So vagal tone, it's actually a measure of the activity of the vagus nerve. And what the vagus nerve actually does um, is it's the vagal tone is the measure for switching from stressed to not stressed. So if you have a strong vagal tone, you're able to bounce back from stress faster. So if you have a strong vagal tone, you're more quickly able to return to that resting state. So positive emotions improves your vagal tone, it improves your cardiovascular and stress recovery, and it undoes the negative effects of negative emotions. Next slide. And lastly, it also builds your social resources. Do you notice that um, when you have shared experiences, uh, when you have positive emotions, it's easier to have shared experience of enduring personal relationships. It's easier to have stronger social bonds. It's easier to relate with others and support others when you have positive emotions. So it actually builds your social resources as well. So if these are things that have been diminished over the lockdown, if you feel that over the lockdown it's been harder for you to concentrate, it's been harder for you to reach out to people, it's been harder for you to feel okay and to be less stressed, try to think of activities that build your positive emotion. Invest in time for those activities that build positive emotion so that you can have all of these things back with you again. And next slide. So these are the resources that your positive emotions build: the cognitive resources, psychological and physical resources, and social. And I want you to really remember positive emotions is like a bank. The more you're able to deposit in your bank, the more you will be able to tap as a resource later on when you're running low. So everything you've experienced in the past, you can access that again. And next slide. Now we'll be talking about what. What is the upward spiral? So this spiral that I'm about to show you is talking about how it's really super cyclic. How if you could just break that cycle of negative emotion, if you could just create a cycle of positive emotion, it's going to be a self-sustaining loop. And I'll show you how that is in the next slide. So positive emotion, this is the upward spiral of positive emotion. You can actually capitalize on the compounding effects of positive emotion to build your upward spiral. So it creates a self sustaining cycle of positivity, and it's built on positive emotions and positive meaning. And next slide, I'll show you how that looks like. So positive emotion and positive meaning, they both build upon each other. They have reciprocal effects, meaning if you have more positive emotion, you're able to create more positive meaning. And if you have more positive meaning, you're able to create more positive emotion. Both feed into each other. So whichever loop you can access, the better it is for you. So Arnold Aga actually said in the chat box, positive emotions makes it easier to have friends. It makes you more attractive. Super true. Super true. And if you're able to even create one step towards that cycle, I'll show you that it builds upon each other. So in the next slide, this is what the positive spiral will look like. So positive emotion, again, you're more likely to find positive meaning in everyday life. And if you have positive meaning, it's easier for you to find and for positive meaning, it's easier for you to find positive meaning in ordinary events, and this will trigger positive emotions. So in the next slide, you'll see that if you have positive emotion and positive meaning, you have broadened. Remember, that's the first benefit. You broaden, you're able to think creatively, you have broadened cognition, you have bigger picture ideas and actions. And we saw that a while ago. People who were in the baby condition, people who watched the baby video, were able to come up with more ideas than people who were in the Gordon Ramsay video. And then next, it builds. So when you have more creative ideas about how to approach something, you will likely have more resources for coping, more resilience, more ability to solve problems. So if you have more, for instance, a lot of people over the lockdown, businesses have shut down. And a lot of businesses are just irrelevant these days because, for instance, if you were in for instance, I feel so much for street food vendors because now people are very wary of eating street food, for instance. I know a lot of people were saying they felt so deeply for, like, for instance, for taho vendors. They want to buy taho, but it's just too difficult to do that right now because, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, there were so much risks. Um, but I did see, for instance, some taho vendors were able to package that. So in clean, tight, closed container, they package the taho and they would sell the taho instead as a package. And you can just disinfect the outside. You can be guaranteed that the inside is clean for as long as reputable naman yung source mo. And then they were able to sell more taho because they're not just selling by the cups, they're selling by the package. So for people who had this broadened ability to think, they were able to solve those problems. They were able to build more memories for more memories that captured more positive emotions. They had more memories of success. And next slide, next, that really enhances your health and improves your well-being and your life satisfaction. The more positive emotions you have, the more you're able to think of more options, act on those best options. You then build psychological resources, you build resilience. And if you're able to do that, you enhance your well being, and it goes back into a cycle of building positive emotions. So, next, it really, this cycle, if you can come enter at any point in this cycle, it will then sustain itself, as you can see. So now that's what we're going to be talking about. How can I use positive emotions to enhance growth? Next slide. So positive emotions, they can help you and your teams thrive, especially for people in the workplace who are figuring out how do we do this now. We'll share you in this section. So the next slide. Kurt, if you can share our Menti screen right now. So we're doing um, team effort right now because of the tech issues. Kurt will be sharing our Menti. Yeah, Kurt has shared it. What is one thing you miss about face-to-face setups? You can answer that, and some people have already answered. It's the merienda. Pinoys really love yung communal experience of eating together. You miss the people and the noise. I know here a lot of people have been missing the hugs. That's a really big thing that we don't get to do as much anymore, right? Another person said real interaction, no delays, and you can really connect. I miss that too because, for instance, if we were together, I think we would have been able to like have more activities. These activities together, we wouldn't have had to rely on Zoom videos or Menti, for instance. We could have had those activities together, but we're trying to work it out. Office gossips, I think you can still have that, pero less na, no? Kasi you don't see each other. Hindi naman gossip siguro kwenta naman. Conversations, traveling, students, especially for the teachers, touch, and even just like a pat on the shoulder, you realize we really took that for granted. And energy of the people, yeah. Boodle fight, yeah, nakakamiss yung mga ganon, no? I wonder when we'll be able to do that again. Next, and we'll go back to, um, yeah, we'll go back to the slide right now. So Trina, could you share the slides again? Yeah. So many positive emotions, they have distinctly social origins. So it makes sense that you miss a lot of those things in the past because those were the origins of your positive emotions before. Social groups and organizations can be positive environments. Kaya nakakamiss talaga yung workplace. It was a place that became a source of positive emotions for you. So next slide. And positive emotions are also contagious. So a leader who has positive emotions can can thus boost team performance. So makikita mo, it's usually predictive that if you have a leader who has positive emotion, they would have a team that performs better. Next. So we'll focus on one key emotion at a time. For now, our key emotion is joy. If you have joy as an emotion, you're able to create the urge to play, and this pushes your creative limits. So, this was one thing we were trying to channel in the video condition a while ago. Next slide. So, some things that you can do if you've heard of Kahoot or playing games within your meetings or even after your meetings, this is a tool that you can use. It gamifies an experience. And next, we'll try a Menti version of this. So, for instance, we've tried this in some of our meetings that we've just shared. We'll just do a Menti question. So, for instance, right now, if you can answer, what's your outfit right now? Is it 100% pang meeting? Is it 100% pang bahay? Or is it the usual 50% pang meeting, 50% pang bahay? If you can, like, putting in questions, candid questions like this can really boost the positive emotions at work. Ooh, so it looks like most people are 100% pambahay right now. And some of my Zoom, if when I facilitate in-house trainings, most people answer half pangbahay, half pang meeting. So for me, for now, I am definitely part of that 10. I'm wearing like a fancy shirt, but I'm actually wearing pajamas. I'm outing myself. In the next slide, another thing you can try to do is next Menti slide. Yeah. So my question is who put the baho in trabaho today? And yeah, can you click? Can you click so we can just find out? Um, Press S to hide image. Yeah. So here, who put the baho in trabaho today? I didn't shower and who cares? And no, we won't know anyway. So you can put your honest response. Sometimes we joke around this way in the office. We can use Mentimeter to joke around now because it's harder to joke around these days, right? Our organic interactions are much less, but that doesn't mean that we will have to reduce the positive emotions from these little jokes. So 9 people didn't shower and who cares? And 21 people said, no way, they definitely have to shower. All right, we'll go back to our slides. And there are more suggestions that we have to create more joy at work. So some are check-in questions. Check-in questions are just like 5 minutes of your meeting, allow everyone to check in, ask them how they're feeling, or ask them a question like, what's something that made you laugh the past week? And then everybody can share about what made them laugh during the past week. Last time we all shared memes and jokes with each other, and we ended up laughing for 10 minutes before we entered our meeting. Another check in question you can ask is this one. This next one is, what's your lamunin mo ako ng lamunin mo ako lupa moment. So ano yung moment na yun na gusto mo talagang, oh my God, sana lamunin ako ng lupa kasi sobrang nakakahiya yung ginawa ko. So we shared all of our embarrassing stories and we were really laughing. Ang dami kong natutunan about our team members, for instance, Kurt and Athena. I learned so much about them because of their answers to this check-in. I realized like Kurt is super um he said no silly business kind of person, and Athena's really crazy. So we laughed a lot asking this question. And another question you can ask is this one. The next question is, what's one food or drink you don't like, but everyone seems to like? So you can also ask that to channel joy, more joy in your meetings. Instead of going straight into the agenda, check in with each other first. And next slide. Ito, you can also ask this. Kung tatlo na lang ang ngipin mo, anong gusto mo? Kalat-kalat o dikit-dikit? Maybe you can answer in the chat box. If you only had three teeth, kung tatlo lang ngipin mo, would you want it kalat-kalat or dikit-dikit? Can you share with us in the chat box? We'd love to know your answer. Lynn said dikit-dikit. Patricia din, Vanessa too. Bakit? Bakit dikit-dikit? Why not kalat-kalat? Para you have more. Everyone's answering dikit-dikit. Dikit-dikit sa unahan para you can pretend siguro. Siguro if I smell like this, you can still think na I have my full set of teeth. Bong said kalat-kalat dahil social distancing. Lynn said dikit-dikit para hindi sila lonely. See, those little questions you can ask to create more positive emotions. Tony said kalat-kalat for now because of social distancing. I think the advantage of kalat-kalat is you can chew in different parts of your mouth or not, but yes. Next slide. And we'll go to mentimeter.com again, and you can answer this question. Can you answer this? The work that I do interests me. And again, Mentimeter is a psychologically safe space. So you can answer anything. We wouldn't be able to trace this back to your identity. The work that I do interests me. Right now, looks like 20 people have said yes, and 3 people have said no, or 5 people have said no. So I'm so glad. I'm so glad that most people here are doing work that interests them. And for the 7 who don't feel really interested at work, I dedicate this next part to you and to your manager so that work can be more interesting to you. All right, we'll go to the slides again. So a key emotion we want to channel is interest. Because if you have interest, it drives exploration and curiosity, and you're able to find meaning and purpose. If you're interested in something, if something sparks your interest, you really find more alignment in that. So next slide. Something that you can do is actually ask people, how was your day? I know hindi na tayo nagkakabanggaan in the workplace these days. But to be able to channel the key emotion of interest, we should still find some space in our day to ask this of each other. How was your day? 'Di ba? For those for for some of you here, when was the last time? Can you share in the chat box? When was the last time that somebody asked you, how was your day? When was the last time that somebody asked you that? And I know, especially these days, it can be quite rare na may magtatanong sa'yo ng how was your day. Kasi medyo unusual na hindi tayo nagkakita-kita, but somebody will still ask, how was your day? I think the last time someone asked me, how was your day was maybe 3 days ago. I think no Sunday, somebody asked me, how was your day? And that really lifted my spirits when someone just checked in on me. That was really nice. A lot of people can't remember, no? Si Lara, for instance, if you can't remember, it means we're probably not doing it enough. Vanessa said last Monday during our virtual meeting, that's great. Lynn said last weekend. Christine LNC said just yesterday. See, that's super good that it's still happening in your workplace. And Carmela, yung pinaka-reason siguro kaninang lunch, may nangamusta sa'yo. So Karen, it's been a while. So it's been a while. I dedicate this part to you. You should, if people haven't asked it of you in a while, maybe you should also think, maybe you also haven't asked other people in a while. So if you could break that cycle, I dare you, Karen, ask someone today, how was your day? And you might be making someone's day today. So that's my challenge for you, Karen. And oh, this is so nice. Daiseline said, every day my daughter always asks me pag uwi ng bahay. That's like, I wonder, Daiseline, how does it feel? Now, at the end of the day, every day, your daughter is going to ask you, how are you? How was your days? And it's such a big buffer. Now you feel like anything can go wrong in your day, but if somebody takes interest in you, it changes your emotions and it gives you the positive emotions that will help you broaden and build later on. So Daiseline said it made you feel very happy. So it's so nice that you have a daughter who has that level of compassion na she will be the one to ask you how was your day. That's so nice. I love how you raised your daughter, Daisy. I'm gonna make sure that for my family, I'm gonna tell them your story para we can also do that for each other. And Karen, yeah, take on that challenge today. Let us know how it goes. And next slide, you can also ask this. In a team meeting last week, this was what I asked for the check-in. What's the most draining and most energizing part of your week so far? So we're channeling the emotion of interest, right? And I'm taking interest in people, and people will feel that uh, I'm I am interested in what's going on in their lives, and they do the same for me. So for me, in a work meeting, I don't restrict people to talk about work sa check-in. If a draining part of their life is something in their personal life, I don't mind hearing it. Or if an energizing part is outside of work, I don't mind, because knowing these things will actually help me know how I can take care of the people in my team and how we can take care of each other. So this is how we channel that key emotion of interest. You can ask this in your check-in as well. And next, another thing you can do, especially for the people here who are managers, you can make sure that there's an alignment between, or at least a cross in the current job that your subordinate is doing with their career goal, or subordinate or team member. So, next slide, find that intersection. Find that, because that intersection is what will pique interest. So, for instance, sometimes before I ask someone to do a task, like for instance, I think MC is here. Hi, MC. I'll use you as an example for this. I know in MC's long-term career goals, he wants to be a writer. So MC wants to be a writer, then because I took interest in that, and I know that the next thing I'm going to ask him to do is, we actually asked him to write an article. So we're able to align his career goals to his current tasks so that it would pique his interest. Because definitely people are invested in doing things that will overall lead to the long term health of their career. So that's one way we were able to get MC to be really interested in the task that he had to do. So his task actually was to write an article on positive emotions. So we will share that with you after this webinar. And in the long run, you that will help MC also with his career goals, because he wants to be a writer. And during that task that he had to do, he did say it was very interesting for him to write an article on that. So for the managers here, or even if you're not a manager, find an alignment with the overall career goal of a person, or your career goal, and the current things that you do. There will be at least a few things in there that will help build interest at work. And next slide. The next key emotion is contentment. So, to be able to channel this, savor the good things in your life and display gratitude. So, from the moment that you wake up, if there's something that you could be grateful for, or when you're having fun, actually be really in that moment. I know sometimes we're having fun, but our mind is back to the stress of work. Then you're not really able to savor if you're doing that. If you are experiencing something good, savor it by putting 100% of your attention in that moment. So next, this is something we suggest you do. You could install apps on your phone if you prefer that. You can install an app like Grateful. It's a gratitude journal, and every day it will prompt you what made you smile today. And then you can answer that, and then you can look back to it later on. For me, just the very act of thinking about it is something that really boosts my well being. You can also choose this app. Instead, you can choose Presently. It's another it's another gratitude journal naman for Android users. So you could try this app if that helps you. And next, so we want to ask you right now on Mentimeter, if you could turn on your camera and go to that here. Our question is, what's one thing you are grateful for today? Let's channel that positive emotion of gratitude right now. What's one thing you are grateful for today? Ooh, somebody said that I'm still alive. Other people, my family, my son goes back to family. Others, health. You know, health is, we just realize how we can't take it for granted. We're able to do all of the things that we're able to do because we're healthy. So if you woke up today, no machines attached to you, or just being able to walk freely, that's already something to be grateful for. Someone said I woke up smiling. Another said friends. Another person said that you're here in the webinar. Oh, that's so sweet. I am super grateful that you are here, that you're all here, and that we're all learning together about how we can be more resilient over these next couple of months. Another person said being in the office and seeing and chatting with my colleagues. That's so nice. So some for some people who have to go to work, then look for something there. And this person said being able to chat with your colleagues is a really big one. Another person said the gift of life, waking up energized and motivated to work and interact with your students. Your students who give you joy right now, that's something to be really grateful for. Another person said having time with my two sons because we're working from home. And see, even if a lot of things have been taken away from us in the pandemic, for instance, our freedom to travel or freedom to go out, there's still something you can find right now at this moment to be grateful for. There's probably never going to be another period like this where you can spend this much time with your two sons. And they'll probably always look back at this year in their lives, in this crazy, crazy year, and think that this is a time that they were able to spend more time with you. So that's something to be really grateful for. And Aga said here, contentment is the secret recipe of joy. No amount of happiness can give you can't no amount of happiness can give you if you don't know how to appreciate good things in life. So yes, if you if you know how to appreciate good things in life, this joy will really color your world. Thanks for sharing that, Arnold Aga. And yeah, having food to eat every day, that's a really big one. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And we'll go back now. We'll go back to our slides. And last one, key emotion of pride. If you have pride, you're able to celebrate goals, acknowledge achievements through feedback. So next slide, we're able to have pride. What we do is we create. This isn't the first time I'm sharing this, but we still try to do this. Like we created a Padlet where we have all members of the team there, and every time we notice that someone is doing something good or something valuable, we just click that plus that plus sign, and then we type there. So for instance, last week for Kurt, someone said like they noticed that Kurt is taking one for the team. He's making sure that the tasks, like the slides for this webinar, are done and people in the team are not lost. And he's open to feedback and others' opinions, and he's easy to work with. So this is a moment for pride for everyone in the team. And like for Kurt to read that, and even for me, when I read something from here, it helps me feel that there's something that I'm doing right and I'm really proud. So this is something that you could do for your team as well. Put in all members of your team and then just share that link with everyone and you'll continue to write on it across time. So you can do this for free. You just go to padlet.com and you can make your own Padlet like this for your team or for your family, so that your little notes of what you're proud of it for each other is never lost. And next slide. So that's it for our webinar. Just don't forget, positive emotions, they're so important because they broaden your thoughts of what you can do, and they build resources, psychological and physical, social, and they're able to really create this self-sustaining upward spiral. So if you can just break the monotony of maybe negative emotions and put in more positive emotions in your life, you will really experience the difference. So at this point, it's Q&A time. If you have questions, you could raise your hand and we can unmute you, or you could type it in the chat box. So Carmela, I'm so glad. Thank you. Thank you for your kind words. And thank you everyone for sticking through our technical difficulties. And thank you especially to Trina and Kurt, who were able to manage all of those technical issues, and that we're still able to finish this webinar. Carmela, that's so nice. Thank you for saying that the discussions are simple yet exciting. This was actually a really dense research article that Kurt and Athena were able to simplify for all of us to really channel our positive emotions. They made it very actionable to us. So please, if you were able to pick up something there, please actually do it. So Karen, I'm gonna look forward to your update on if you're able to ask someone how their day was today. So we have a question from uh El Elor Elora, did I say it right? Elora Carmiel Javier. How can we share this information to people who feel or are depressed or are having a hard time feeling positive emotions? So what we're actually gonna do, one thing you could do is you could it could come from you. You could share what your takeaways were from this webinar. I think it will be more valuable if you don't just share the takeaway, but if you actually apply all of these things in your life and you share the impact of that with others. I think your network will believe you more if it comes from your own story. So actually apply what you've learned here, channel the positive emotions of pride, of joy, of interest, of contentment. Do the gratitude journal and share that with others. And when others see the effect on you, they will more likely be believing you, and they will more likely follow your footsteps. We're also going to upload this Zoom on our Facebook page, so you can direct people to our Facebook page. Our Facebook page has the archive of all of the webinars that we've done, and people can watch it back from there. So you could share that resource with other people who need to hear it right now. And thank you everyone for appreciating this webinar. It's really filling us with positive emotions to see that you appreciated it. Kay said, what's the difference between joy and happiness? This was a little contentious to me, to the layperson. If to the layperson, if the regular person, there is no difference, I don't really like to make a distinction. But I do know in some articles or some thought leaders, they make a distinction in saying that joy is more fleeting, and it's an emotion that's fleeting, whereas happiness is an overall disposition, that even if you don't feel super good in that moment, you can still consider yourself to be happy because of your appreciation of the overall state. So they say that joy is more fleeting and happiness is a more solid state, but it really varies based on how people define it. I think to the regular person, there's no difference. So I actually don't like to distinguish the two. Um, I think you can just build both joy and happiness all at once. And yeah, so a lot of people are saying thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Lara said it's a refreshing way to it's refreshing to attend this after a day's work. Yeah, and Lara, if you can share it with more of your colleagues, para it's not just you who's refreshed. More people can be refreshed to hear things like this. Editha has a question. She said, what if your boss always sees in you are your previous mistakes? Any suggestions? Yeah, I think you have to channel the positive emotion of peace in this instance. So for instance, I've experienced this workplace. Now all of the good things I've done, they're overlooked. But every time I make a mistake, it's blown up and people or the boss could go back to that mistake, and really that gives me bad feelings. So I what I've learned to do in life is to be more selective of which kind of um things I would listen to. So if I know that negative emotions will be narrowing my thoughts, and now we know that it will, if you have narrow thoughts, you also have less options to think of. So now that I know that the negative emotion wouldn't help me right now, then I honestly just, when I hear that from my boss, I just try to pick out the best thing. They're trying to give me feedback. I'll take that feedback. I'll do something to address that feedback, and that's it. I will no longer hold on to the hurtful things that they've said. I will no longer keep echoing what they've said to myself. I will just be productive in taking that feedback, responding to that feedback, and that's it. I don't replay it in my mind anymore because it's just going to lead to negative emotions. And right now, what we need are positive emotions to survive this pandemic and to be okay during these times. So if your boss always sees that, just acknowledge it, take what good you can get out of it, which is the feedback, respond to that feedback, and the negative emotions or the judgment or the self depreciation that can come from that, don't take it anymore. Just do what you can to improve, and don't anymore hold on to your boss's focus on your mistakes. And some more questions. Yes, we're going to be releasing our evaluation link in a moment. Yeah. So right now, okay, there's just before I answer a couple more questions, I'll just go through the slides. This is actually a series of webinars for for the month of March. Today, I talked about channeling emotions. Next week, John will be talking about debunking the workaholic, meaning and purpose at work. So we're going to be talking about being a workaholic. How can you manage that? What does it actually mean? Is it good? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? John will be discussing that next week. So if that interests you, especially for the workaholics in this room, please join our webinar next week. And then lastly, Tammy Dunnett, who is the CEO of Relationship Revolution, will be sharing with us the 4 C's of caring conversations. So this will help dissolve workplace conflict. So if that interests you, that definitely interests me. Our very special guest, Tammy Dunnett, is sharing that. And next, here are some of our courses that you can actually attend. So one is designing positive training experiences. Here you will learn about super learning, constructivism, and how to train with well-being in mind. So what we try to do in all of our webinars is we try to make it as engaging as possible. If you want to learn how we do that, or what are the positive psychology principles behind that, please join this course. Our team has just posted these links in the chat box. And other courses we have as well is um, here we have our first asynchronous course, which is contextualizing positive psychology in the Philippines, an e-learning course. Because when I studied positive psychology in Australia, I was thinking, is positive psychology just for the first world? How can we think of positive psychology in light of our situation here in the Philippines, where things are more hard up for us? So you could join this. I try to squeeze in, and we try to design us to put in all of the critical things that I've learned in positive psychology in Australia to this course, and it's quite cheap. So there's a regular rate of 3,500, but if you're a student, you can get a discount, and it will just be 1,750 for that asynchronous course. And next, we're also have a search for positive young leaders of the Philippines. We want to hear about your inspiring stories that inspire positive leadership. So there's a prize for you if you join. This is for the youth. There's also a learning session for the youth, and you'll also get to network with others. These are the great advantages if you join the search for the positive young leaders of the Philippines. So the link is also there in the chat box. And next, I think this is it. I will go back to, we have a few more minutes for some questions. And Trina has also posted the evaluation link in the chat box. So if you want to get a certificate from this, you can click on that link and you'll get a certificate just by giving us some feedback. So I'll be reading some things in the chat box. Um, Genevieve Burdin said, how can we encourage people who tend to get irritated at work easily? Yeah, and then we definitely see these people, right? And you can see that it's hard for them to access the positive spiral if every little thing just irritates them. And to be honest, I really think here the most effective thing is to be an intentional role model. One is to be understanding, and to understanding that maybe it's just really harder for them. Maybe they grew up with a family or with people, they've been surrounded with people who are like that. And maybe they're thinking it's their catharsis, that if they're able to let out their frustration and their irritation and show it to the world, that it helps them a bit. So maybe that's where they're coming from. Let's try to understand that trying they're still trying to do their best. But I think the approach here is to really show them by being a role model about how they can have a different path. Show them that when something irritates you, you take a breath and you switch to a more positive emotion or to a more proactive way of doing things. And if they see from you that that's a better way, a more adaptive way of dealing with frustration, then it's more likely that they will follow your lead. I say this versus telling them, "Oh, you're so irritable, you're not doing well for yourself." Versus saying that, I think that's just gonna irritate them even more, especially if they're very irritable. But if you could be a role model, if you could show them that something bad happened to you today, coffee spilled on you, tech issues happened in your meeting, someone said something about you, but you took the high road and you were more graceful about it. You channeled grace and joy even through a difficult circumstance. And if they see how it benefits your life to choose that path, then it's more likely that they will follow you. So, yeah, that's my tip for you, Genevieve. Be the role model that this person needs and show them that even if all of these crazy things happen to you, by choosing the attitude and the emotion you want to channel, it helps you in the long run. If you can demonstrate that to the world, you would be doing a great service to the world. And Julie said, I'm so happy to have attended this webinar. Thank you so much, Positive Workplaces. Thank you, Julie, for being with us here today. And thank you for the kind words, also from Genevieve and from Francis as well. From Francis, she said, thank you, Positive Workplaces. Being positive amidst the COVID experience is making me thankful for my life, regardless of my fear. More power and kudos. See, we can learn so much from Francis right now by her choosing a positive attitude despite all of the crazy going on in the world. She's more thankful for life, and she's able to hold that despite the feelings of fear. So we recognize there's still fear there because things are not going well. But if you're able to choose your attitude, then that's really gonna be helpful for you in the long run. Thanks for inspiring us, Francis. And Maria Lourdes Belen said the same thing. I totally agree. Don't sweat the stuff that's not in our control. And yeah, Nelly, please explore Padlet as a way of channeling pride in your team. Put all your team members there and be the first to put something under each of them. Put something that you appreciate for all of them. And you would be then creating that culture of appreciation, and you would be the first one to channel pride for the rest of your team. So that's it for now. Thank you so much, everybody, for being with us here today. Please join us again in our upcoming webinars, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great afternoon. Thank you, everyone.